and welcome to the Resilience and Brilliant Single Women Summit, where we are learning to live your happy, create prosperity, and always be true to you. I'm your host, Emily Kobek. Thank you so much for joining us today for this inspiring talk. My next guest is going to share with us about stress resilience and energy management through stressful times. Stressful times can be something that's come up like a pandemic, but it can also just be something that's more maybe in your career, in your home life, in relationships, being a mother. However it is that you're up leveling, there's transitions, there's change, there's a desire to change, and there's blocks. If you've experienced any kind of depletion due to stress or fear, this next interview and conversation could really change your life. My next guest is the founder and CEO of Life by Design Academy and Frontline Consulting. She's consulting and coaching firms that help individuals and organizations grow to their full potential. She applies her vast experience, having lived in 6 different countries, handling change and exposure to different cultures and industries. And she helps industries and people grow beyond mental or geographical boundaries. She sits on various boards, including the Entrepreneur Organization. She holds an MBA and a BA in International Business Management. She's a certified yoga teacher, pranayama, and she's trained in positive intelligence. So much more. You can find her in speaking engagements, podcasts. Please welcome Natalya Berdikyan. Okay, so hi Natalya, thank you so much for being here. It's great to meet you.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
Would you please share with us a little bit about your story and how you got to be doing what you're doing now?
Certainly, my story. So I originally come from what is not popular right now, being former Soviet Union, Russia, Moscow. And at 16, alone, I went to US, being an exchange student, and lived in 4 different families, went to 2 different schools. So since then, change is the only thing that's constant, certainly. And with that, staying in Europe and living in different countries, survival and tolerance were my sort of like guides. I would lean on them, and I thought it was a good thing. It definitely kept me moving forward, and I got the first degree, and then I got the MBA, and then I was in corporate, etc., and got into entrepreneurship. Till the moment I realized that I was not living my own life at some point. It's like adapting to the circumstances, which I was very good at, as you can imagine, since my childhood. And I was raised by a single mother. I wouldn't say she was ever single, but it wasn't with the father. And that strength of an independent woman, same like was my grandmother actually, kind of gave me that drive and that sense of freedom and the ability or the feeling that I can accomplish anything. And I just need to keep going. And tolerance and coping mechanism is one of those tools that I can use. And it worked perfectly good. And then at some point, I got into entrepreneurship, and I was running an international business with 20 different cultures, which was amazing. And I felt totally overwhelmed and drained and exhausted mentally, physically, spiritually, and totally not aligned with who I thought I was. And then I just spin the whole thing around, and I went into energy leadership coaching and working with people in their organizations to live to their full potential and find their freedom and their strength and their joy and sense of fulfillment without having to be tolerating and coping and pushing through and struggling. So they can experience a completely different way of living and working that comes more effortlessly and more connected and aligned with who they truly are. That's in short.
What is energy leadership coaching? What is that?
I would reverse the question and ask you, what is energy to you?
Oh, it's different things. The first thing that comes to my mind is the energy that I have that flows through me, so my like source energy, and the energy that I have to give to my life and my day and perform and be present for. So that's what I think of as energy at the top of my mind.
That's perfect. So what can you do without energy?
What can I do without it?
How does that feel?
So I can lay in bed and watch Netflix for days and eat devoid of life food. That's what I can do.
Yeah. So when we work with energy, key is to understand our energy, that life force within us, without which we can't do anything, can't engage in life, and the way we come across can be a bit, apathetic and more like on the victim side. And so that understanding what influences our energy, whatever thoughts we have and whatever emotions we're experiencing the moment that lead us to do or not to do something. So understanding what is at the core of our energy, what is at the essence of how we're feeling and how we're thinking and how we're experiencing, that is what the energy management coach, core energy coaching does. So really understanding what is happening with the person. It's easy to say, well, I'm not engaged, I'm not performing, or my team is not performing and they're not doing XYZ, or I'm feeling XYZ. But understanding is what's fundamentally behind it, is what is at the core, who we truly are, following with a what and the why and the how type of stuff. And going really deep to understanding what is influencing our energy, what is affecting, where are the blocks coming from, whether it was created by your thought alone, that is an example, I'm not good enough, there's a crisis out there, no one is going to hire me, or last time I failed, it's not going to work again the next time. So all that self-talk, etc. So we look deep into those energy blocks, right? The limiting beliefs and the fears, interpretations, assumptions, and all of that, the influencers, whatever influences us, whether it is physical, we didn't sleep enough, or we didn't exercise enough, or not having enough good nutritious food and rest, etc., because it is affecting our body. But we're thinking, well, I did it before, so I must be able to do it again. But every situation is very different. Or our mental influences, if my focus is different, the task that I'm handling right now is different, and I'm not able to concentrate or grasp it, or it's too boring, or it's too out there that I'm not getting it, and it's not challenging enough, or it's too whatever enough. So all of these little things influence us, but we think, well, I'm just not performing, or I'm just not feeling it, so there's something wrong with me, and that affects our behaviors and the way we feel, of course. So we go deep into all of these type of things and really move the person from feeling at the effect of life situations and people to being at cause, to being a choice, to be, instead of a victim, quote unquote, or an aggressor in fight or flight state, to being a creator of their own experience in their life, and enjoy it and have that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. And then everything else comes with it. Call it financial success, call it great relationships, well-being, and all of that.
So it sounds like what you're saying is the energy, you're not doing energy coaching like like Reiki, for example.
No.
you're doing energy coaching, like it's a very mental and physical, what you're putting in your body, what you're taking in mentally, what you're saying to yourself mentally. Those are the things that you work with energy.
Definitely. And also the habits. I mean, the well-being habits that we bring into place that give the person, basically help the person to function in the most optimal way. And so we are looking at the environment, we are looking at the mental stuff, at the social, at the spiritual being, you know, the values, the purpose, the belief system, etc., where the person is at, and working on all of these things. So when people come and say, well, I'm overwhelmed and frustrated and drained, just like I was years ago, we really look at what is happening behind it. Well, maybe the values are not aligned. Maybe you work in the environment that is not aligned with who you truly are, as an example. Or maybe you don't sleep enough, or toxic relationship. I'm just giving you an example. And we change the mindset in a way to see what is a different way of looking at the situation, whether it is a big negotiation and people have a certain way of approaching that negotiation or a conflict. I see a lot of people that are they're basically running away from conflict. So and it happens a lot with women and female leaders, that they do not necessarily stand their ground and find their voice to go out there and claim their space and move up in their career ladder, for example. And that's very important. We look at building those boundaries, those self-care practices that are so important to feel balanced and to feel in harmony with themselves and also with the environment around them, and look at whatever situations that come up, really find the best tools to work through those situations and feel good and move forward and have that sense of freedom, sense of fulfillment, joy, and alignment.
How do you work with women that are, maybe something has come up and it goes back to their childhood, right? And so then are you able, in your training, you are able to help work with those traumas as well?
Definitely. Well, I'm not a therapist, so I'm a coaching. We do go into the past, but from the standpoint of where are the blockers? What can we learn from it? How can we move through the blockers? And we are generally focusing on from functional to the optimal state. So if the person is in deep depression and a deep burnout that he can't get out of bed, or she, then it's more a situation for a therapist, a psychologist, or psychoanalytics, someone that might actually need medicine as well. And we can work in parallel, but that's more a therapy case. If the person is functional, but there are certain traumas and certain things that just keep on turning around, we can look deep into that and just like peeling the onion to understand how is that affecting what happened. And most of the people I work with, including myself, we have certain traumas back in the past, whether it is, in my case, my father left me, so I grew up without one, although he's perfectly alive. And how is that affecting me? And how is this connecting to my values and my desires and my goals, etc.? And we move the person forward, because it's more about understanding how is this affecting, how is it blocking, and why does it serve you to have those limiting beliefs, if they are limiting, or those fears, how real they are, and move forward and build a strategy to build the life of your dreams.
Yeah, so you don't need to, I speak to a lot of women that, or healers in this event as well, that they go in and they're talking about repatterning, the subconscious. That's not what you necessarily, that's not your end game. It's just really being very clear and it sounds like you're having a very adult conversation with things that are triggering from childhood, possibly. Is that
It's
right?
definitely an adult conversation. There's a lot of awareness that we bring in to the table. So the awareness of what was, what is, the acceptance part, which is so important, because we cannot build something if we don't accept where we are. Because it was what it was, it's a fact. So we look at facts, the reality, not just a story we create in our head, because it's very common. So we really distinguish the story that a person creates with the facts, the reality, and the acceptance. It is what it is. Now, what are you going to do about it? Are we going to focus on problems, or we're going to focus on solutions? Because it's only in solutions that we can find the way forward. We can find those learnings, we can find those opportunities, we can find those strengths and those great capabilities that we have. And there are plenty of things to prove that in the past. And that's what we look at, to give the person that sense of connection, fearlessness, confidence, that authenticity, and all the other stuff, and the ability to be present in the moment and connected, to have the access to that potential and that decision making and that strength and all of the other great stuff to move forward, creating that future and experiencing things from a different perspective, from a higher state of consciousness. And same whether it is leading at home or in the business or in the company, leading self, coming from that higher state and higher resonance, if you want to call it energy resonance, rather than the lower, basically from the victim to the creator state. And if there is a need for deeper therapy, then I definitely direct person to the therapist, or we work together. There are different things that come into place, lots of tools and exercises that help to deal with the past, but more focusing on going from functional to optimal rather than dysfunctional to functional. Because if they come to me, they generally are in that functioning state. They just want to get the better, have a greater life, a greater career, be the best version of themselves, a better mother, a better entrepreneur, a better leader, wife, person, daughter, sister, whatever. So
what would you say, so with women that you've worked with, what would be, I guess I'm curious what like one of the top blocks that you see as common in women, or fears?
top blocks, everything is quite individual. If you would look at your life, what are the things that now you think blocked you the most?
The fear of being seen, the fear of being powerful, the fear of success or failure. Both of those. I think those would be the top ones.
Yeah. So we really look deep into what is fear and how is that affecting, making friends with it, because it is at most, fear, false evidence appearing real. It's not the reality, but we think it is. It's not happened yet because it might be in the future, but it's paralyzing us right now and it's blocking us in the moment. And at that moment, we don't have the access to that creative decision making, etc. So with energy management, the methodology behind it is actually backed up with the science and neuroscience and quantum physics, etc. So what I talk about and what I share is that there are two types of energy. The catabolic energy that is under stress, and under stress, it creates the catabolic hormones to help us break through the stress. So adrenaline and cortisol, which you might think, well, it's great, cortisol and adrenaline, we get things done, or it actually drains us. And in the long term, we're talking about different types of hormones. In the long term, it is disruptive and it is draining us and it is creating diseases as well if we stay too much under stress. And then there is a different type of energy being anabolic, and it's more constructive, healing, growing, expanding kind of energy. And we have the dopamine and other hormones that are actually helping us to optimize our body systems, while the first one is eating through our body cells. Hence, we can create diseases if we stay too long in it. I can put it very simply. If our mind is negative, or we see only problems and we have that state of like, not good enough, I'm stuck, there's no way out, there's no solutions, blaming self, blaming others, judgment, being very judgmental. It's very heavy to be self-judgment. And every time we judge ourselves, I'm not good enough, not productive enough, I could have done that better, it drains our energy. So it's that catabolic energy, or negative thinking, if you wish. And the opposite gets us in that anabolic state where we can build stuff, we can have this decision-making power because we're connected to our intuition, we're connected to others, we see opportunities, we see solutions rather than focusing on. So by positive thinking alone, for example, you can shift that energy. You can also shift that energy by giving yourself that space and that self-care and connecting to your own intuition, connecting to others rather than staying like a little, stress ball, for example. And so we work with these energy, and when compared to Reiki, so we work on the energy resonance, or simply on the way our thoughts are affecting our feelings and are affecting our actions and therefore results. So when you're talking about what is blocking, right, the fears and the thought that being afraid of failure or being afraid of success, all of that, that's created in our thinking pattern. And you can relate it to your past or your past traumas. As an example, last time you did it, it failed. So I'm not going to do it again because it didn't work the last time. So we are deblocking it and peeling down the onion and giving you that power to get it back and to build what you do want and what you are actually capable of, because we have the proof of that. But in that state, the catabolic stress state, you just don't have the access to that information because it paralyzes in the moment. Right. So we move people from one state to the other in the moment, so they have access to all of that great stuff they have within.
It sounds too like when you're helping them regulate their nervous system, so that their stayed connection, that connection to intuition is aligned with the breath and being in a state of more calm. And well, I want to know your thoughts on stress resilience and how you help people manage their energy in times of stress.
Such an easy thing to do is proper breath work. So breathing is a really good stress resilience tool. And it might sound way too simple, but it's true. So most of the people I work with, and it's a fact that when people are stressed and anxious, they forget to breathe, or you go like your breath is like, you feel like out of breath. And so connecting people to themselves and to the breath, slowing down, and by slowing down, they actually move further ahead. That's why I like the yoga practice, because the yoga and the yoga mindset, it combines all of that. It combines the body, mind, and soul. It connects you to your body by starting to breathe, because it's not about touching your toes, although you can. And if you breathe, you can do it better. And that's the thing. Same in life, in the struggle, just like in the yoga twist, right? When you exhale, you twist further. Same in life, when you have a challenge and you breathe into it, or you're stressed or something happens and you're like, if you breathe in and out deeply a couple of times, it changes. Same like in yoga, the pain might go away. Same thing in life, the situation might look different. And that's why we teach, well, that is one of the tools, but responding rather than reacting. And in order to respond well, what helps is having the awareness. That's why I'm going back to before. We are working on increasing that awareness of the situation as it is, on how we feel, on the others, which energy level the other people are at, what is happening with them, what is happening with you, what is the situation, to have the real awareness, not the makeup stuff in your head, the story that we create in our head. So things like that.
I remember this was reminding me of a training I did again with Landmark. It was years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And Landmark is a company here in the States. And they just, one of the things that they said was, we're meaning making machines. We just make meaning out of everything. And anything that can happen, and we make a meaning, like, oh, she's not smiling, she doesn't like me. Oh, that's what, we just do this. Or, oh, she is smiling, she does like me. We're always, our mind is always making meaning of that. So it sounds like you're helping people to be aware of that habit that might be, and choose a different meaning, or just be aware of it. You help them like,
yeah, then, well, it's the story we create, the interpretation of the assumption, and then lots of limiting beliefs that, the society, but the parents, but the religion, all the domestication. So we think this is how it is. And it's like being blind in a way. So what happens with elevating to higher energy levels, it's like going on the air balloon. The higher you go, the more you see, because the lower you only see the horizon there. If you go higher, you actually see the whole world. And so by increasing the awareness, you increase your access to all of that. That's one. And then there are other tools that we use. So it's really looking at it holistically, from a holistic standpoint, reconnecting our mind, body, and soul, that spirit, being in spirit, as I call spirituality, is about being in spirit with yourself, nothing to do with religion, understanding what your values are and what your belief system is, your purpose in life, and reconnecting with all of that. And at times, by slowing down, right, we can actually be more connected with ourselves and with that reality without those stories in the head.
so I have another, I kind of like to see this in action, like this in action. One of the things that you said was like, I'm not good enough. One of the examples that you gave earlier was the thought that I'm not good enough. And that's definitely one I think is pervasive around the world. I don't know where it comes from exactly, but it's something like it's infected so many humans. And it's something that I've struggled with as well. How would you help someone to sort of show them that they are good enough?
Yeah. Okay.
When we've had both of those experiences, like I've had experiences where, yeah, of course you are. And then others where, no, you weren't. That was
okay. Yeah. Well, let's make a practical thing out of it. So let's say that's one of your fears, that you're not good enough. Let's call it a gremlin. Imagine the gremlin, I don't know, a fluffy purple thing, hairy and everything, or whatever you want to imagine it to be. Just imagine that gremlin is sitting on your shoulder and is telling you, example, not good enough, or tell me what message is it telling you, what message it repeats.
The gremlin is definitely not purple and fluffy. He's like black and dripping like tar or something. He looks a little bit like the Tasmanian devil. And he's got big sharp teeth. And he's saying, they're gonna hate you. They're all gonna hate you. Hate. He's saying the word hate, which is a really harsh word for me to say. It's a very hard word to say.
Right. And that hurts. And you might believe it at times or might not believe it at times. Can you give it a name, that gremlin?
Wicked.
Huh?
Wicked.
Okay.
Wicked comes to mind.
All right. Okay. So imagine he sits there and he tells you that stuff, and you tell him wicked and give him the message. Because remember that the fears or the gremlins, that they're there with a purpose to protect us, really. Protect us from failure, protect us from losing face, etc., etc. It's the inner mechanism of our body, the freeze, flight, and fight state, is there to protect. So if he comes again and he tells you this message, can you give him the message back? The kind of message where you say, you can make him your friend because he's there to protect you, he's there to help you, but he just doesn't know better. So can you give him the message back? What would you tell him?
I'd say, hi, Wicked. I hear you. I've been hearing you. And it sounds like it's very uncomfortable. You sound like you're very uncomfortable. I might offer him some water. He needs some water. You like something
Okay.
to drink. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you like him to do? How can he
Take a
help you
breath.
to?
Slow down. Just take a couple of breaths. Because it's just like ferociously moving, like constant, that energy, constant. There's no stillness there.
Right. And you can do without him, right?
Yeah.
You can give him the task that could be of more benefit to you. If he's there to help, just give him another task. So next time your gremlin comes up, keep that message for him.
If you have some water, if you like some water, and take a few deep breaths. Let's be still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel?
More powerful. Honestly, I feel like I just have a piece of my power back.
Yeah. And so we can make that exercise. You guys can draw your gremlin, make something physical, something, I can imagine it, but it really helps to draw it, to make it, a physical thing. So you look at it at least once, tangibly. And then next time it comes up, you have that message. And then you can actually imagine him, and it doesn't become so scary anymore. Because once you give it a name, it sort of becomes more approachable. And it gets a different message, the one that serves you.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you. That was really sweet.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
Well, what I would love to share is that you have all the power within. And as long as you understand yourself and your energy and have that consciousness and awareness, the world is your oyster and you can do anything. And we all have that within us, and that inner guide and that wisdom. So, and you can always reach out. And my website has a lot of resources and free exercises you can do. Just we'll have the link for you ready and you can fill it out. And if you add the code Life by Design, you'll get the workbook that will guide you to create the life of your dreams. And we'll see what is standing in the way and where your energy is at. And I welcome you to have the optional personal session with me. and we'll see how we can deblock all these gremlins and create the life that is of your dreams, financially, relationship wise, health wise, career wise, etc.
That's the the Wheel of Life tool, that workbook. Is that what you were
Yes.
working with? Beautiful. And an intro session as well.
Correct.
Great. Yes, we'll have that link right under your video. Thank you so much, Natalya. It has been a very sweet experience to know you and to talk with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a pleasure. Thank you. And self-care, you come first.